Yeah, I think, with this being a resale shop, they got the higher brand stuff,
So, as you know, I am a James Dean fan. I've always been a James Dean fan. I had a James Dean poster in my room when I was a young kid. I wasn't the type to have like a River Phoenix poster. I didn't have that or anything like that. Or I had the James Dean poster. I was also a big Morrissey fan, so I loved listening to the Smiths and Morrissey. So I am going to talk a little bit about the turnip seed incident, where turnip seed made the illegal left-hand turn, killing James Dean and his mechanic friend, Rolf Rutherick, pretty much instantly. Rutherick did survive, but died at the hospital about 6:20. James Dean was ticketed about 3:30. I'm assuming was probably released from the whole ticket probably about 3:33 or so, and then hit the road. This was in the afternoon at 3:33 p.m. by the time he was released. The accident happened further down the road from the ticket. He was going very fast when the cop pulled him over. But the second time, they're saying, because of the judging the tire tracks and from the photos, they're saying that Dean was following the speed limit at about 55 miles per hour. Now, he did slam into Donald Turnipseed because Donald Turnipseed was breaking the law and making a left-hand illegal turn in front of their vehicle, and they collided together. So Donald Turnipseed killed them. He's a college student in a hurry, made the left-hand turn when he shouldn't have. It was an illegal turn. Dean died instantly. His neck was broken. Also, he had internal injuries, and his left foot, or I think it may have been his left foot, we'll have to do research on it, but his foot was crushed between the brake and the clutch. So the clutch and the brake smashed and destroyed the vehicle. When the vehicle was destroyed, it smashed his foot, destroyed his foot as well. So his foot was mangled beyond repair, but his neck was broken instantly. James Dean really wasn't truly that famous at that time. James Dean had only had one film released at that time, which was East of Eden. We'll get into the Elia Kazan thing and all that stuff later. But East of Eden was the only thing that was released. They didn't even really know who he was. Later, after his death, then they released Rebel Without a Cause, and then finally releasing The Giant. He was nominated, I believe, for those films, all three. I want to say he was nominated posthumously. So when it all happened, he was a rising star, and the wreck and the death made him pretty much famous. The thing about James Dean that a lot of people don't realize, and I'm going kind of on a tangent and not really focusing on just the death, I do plan to go to Marfa if possible. It's very far away. Texas is a big state. I'm in Texas now. The thing about James Dean that people don't really realize is what he did to the youth culture and how there was a shift. Now, Marlon Brando, and I'm going on the side of Marlon Brando just to make this point, was one of the first big actors, and method actors, we'll get into all that stuff later, but he was one of the big actors at that time to change the way people kind of in a way dressed. Because Streetcar Named Desire came out, eventually became a film, and the Levi look, right, the blue jeans that we wear today is because of Marlon Brando. You got to make that clear. Marlon Brando was very excited about wearing these factory style pant thing that people would wear in the factory, which I think was pretty much like a Levi, blue jeans, on the stage for Stanley Kowalski and Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams, who basically, it all was directed by Elia Kazan. So Elia Kazan was behind some of the design and worked with Marlon Brando to find that look. After that play became very, very famous off of Broadway, or on Broadway, and Tennessee Williams got it onto the screen, everyone started wearing blue jeans, okay? James Dean followed in the shadow of Marlon Brando, but James Dean changed the way that the youth were fed information. A long time ago in the 50s, you learned your music, you learned your clothing, you learned your style as a child from the older generation, as of your parents. James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause and all that stuff, made it where the youth were to find their own expression, and rebellion became part of that aspect. Meaning, don't tell me what to wear, don't tell me how to act, and don't tell me that I can't drive a Spider Porsche or something, you know. He died in a Spider Porsche. Originally, he had it was like a Speedster, and he had traded it in for that Spider for the quality of catching greater speeds and things like that. But the idea behind James Dean was that you are this rebel, don't listen to the parents, and Rebel Without a Cause was, just, you're tearing me apart, all that stuff was to get away from being guided by the older generation and to find that the younger generation, or your current generation, is what you are, okay? Some of my vlogs, I kind of talked about that a little bit today. I don't know when it'll be released, but this one probably will be going maybe on Facebook. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because when I approach the death and the tragic wreck and all the stuff with Donald Turnipseed and what ended up happening with James Dean is because he actually was not speeding. He was actually following the law. He had just been pulled over by a police officer. He was probably going about 55. So a lot of this was an act. It wasn't really, I think, what James Dean really represented. I think he was an artist. He was trying to find his way in Hollywood. He was very young in the film industry. He was kind of a poet. He worked with Lee Strasberg, went out to the actor's studio. He started off, his parents had a connection with Santa Monica. He did live in Indiana. I think Fairmont, Indiana was a big place that he hung out with the cattle and did all this photography and stuff when he came back from New York. So all of this stuff was part of what represented a rebellion. I think he went back to his high school reunion, took his autographs. He was actually a law-abiding guy. There was all this stuff about homosexuality and stuff. It wasn't something that he went out and really did reports on, if he was bisexual or whatever. But these things were rumored, and it wasn't something that he was promoting. So the rebel was kind of a character that he was playing. Marlon Brando, another story. James Dean was kind of a young, brooding, struggling actor there was more of an innocent quality to him, as opposed to the real rebel who really tore it up, who was Marlon Brando. Now, my conspiracy theory is that, yes, Marlon Brando loosened the brakes, okay? Meaning Marlon Brando went in there and got someone to mess with his brakes, or did it himself, because Marlon Brando probably could have. He was a genius. This is only for fun. I don't know if you ever heard this and me talk about this, but I've talked about my friends, other acting friends. I don't know for sure. Probably not, but Marlon Brando did accuse James Dean of stealing his style, this whole thing that he did, which was very theatrical, and Marlon Brando was very theatrical. He used theater. He was a great actor, but he was very, very much all this stuff that he did it was all planned. With Dean, I think he was exploring more of a kind of rebellious way of approaching things. Of course, after his death, they saw him as this rebel figure, and it was like a dangerous kind of thing. But anyway, I do want to explore that, and it's something that I am releasing. So it's just kind of a little James Dean death vlog kind of thing. So I thought it over, and yeah, I think Gary Oldman would be good. So it's zany. There's a comedy aspect to it. I mean, I'm not saying Mel Brooks or anything. I don't want to put a director's name on it, but I'm not saying Mel Brooks or anything. I don't want to put a director's name on it, but I think the fact that the werewolf hunter gets very, very angry at times, it might work because of the emotion aspect that Gary Oldman can do. But he's older, I know, but it's not the anger that he had like in The Professional. It's not that type of anger. It's kind of an old man kind of anger, grumpiness kind of thing. A little bit like Mank, not really that lazy kind of thing, but more astute. And what is this John Blacksmith guy doing? Because he's a young John Blacksmith is like a young kid, like kind of hippie. You know, he'd be like a late 20s, maybe even 30 at the most. I would say at the most 30 years old, maybe. Kind of a Kevin Smith fan is John Blacksmith. So, what the heck was that? John Blacksmith Kevin Smith would be, well, no, Kevin Smith would be too old. But it would be a Kevin Smith kind of character, maybe, kind of thing, you know. John Blacksmith is a little, you know, kind of a little annoying. He could be really any age, but the thing is that Oldman is kind of, you know, he has him along because he's got to string him along because he's this guy that's a werewolf, diehard werewolf hunter. You know, come on, let me go, please. You know, let me tag along, please. You know, let me go with you, please, kind of thing. And Oldman's like, okay, whatever. You know, fine. He does it silently. You know, he's like, fine, come along. You know, and then there's maybe like a disagreement about something, and he can get really mad. And then there's some funniness there. There's some humor there along the trail. Of course, until John Blacksmith's hand gets cut off by the teeth of the werewolf. And his hand gets chewed off. He no longer has a hand. And then, of course, the hand is fried up in the skillet by Rainey Love, the ex-rock star. So you see what I'm saying? There's something there. Grace Lippin has a name that he doesn't like. He doesn't like being called Grace, so he has people call him GL sometimes. As in G, as in L. As in, let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F. I know there's A, B, C, D, E. Huh. Okay. Just A, B, C, D, E. There's A, B, C, D, E. There's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, right, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z, right? G, L, G, L, right? Grace Lippin. Now, the reason I did that was because I just wanted to throw in a sign language segment in that part of the show, in the Please Subscribe show. So the reason I did that was because I wanted to throw in a little segment about sign language and the Please Subscribe show, right? So he needs a mistake. He has to have a mistake. Then he can go back on the second take, and usually it's there. The mistake has to be there as proof of Christianity, that we're broken, right? So there's a mistake. We are all broken people. So that's proof that we're broken, right? That we're crucified and broken, right? And in that brokenness, there's grace. So grace is a representation of being broken. He was broken as a fighter. He was hit in the ears. He has problems hearing at times. He knows sign language maybe, right? So he has problems. Jerry, well, he could go by Jerry at times, but Gerald Oldman III is dealing with once being a pastor and now being an alcoholic and loving the taste of scotch and, you know, listening to the Steely Dan, you know, who wants to listen to Steely Dan, you know? He's got these problems, you know, he's sick, but he wants to kill this werewolf, this horrible, monstrous beast that loves to live on flesh only, right? The flesh of poor creatures, right? So the problem is that he lives kind of in a way like Rainy Love, but Rainy Love is really the werewolf. And she lives on, you know, human flesh, which is different than the creatures of the farm, right? There's a difference between the two. Because he's a fighter, so he likes meat and fighting and hurting. While Rainy Love is a real werewolf, and he doesn't know it until later. He finds out when he catches her in the kitchen, and she has lycanthrope legs. And she's frying up John Blacksmith's hand. Honey, what are you doing? She says, well, I thought you were hungry. And looks up, and she's got blood on her mouth. And he realizes that she's the werewolf and he needs to go to town to stop her, right? We're going into Time Monkey. It's a real big deal to get to work with a movie star as someone like Sir Gary Oldman. The reason why it's a big deal is because they've had a long history in cinema. And they know what they're doing. It'd be cool to have like a whole field burn after the the mishap with the canister butane and the silver nitrate. Kind of Children of the Corn kind of thing, but only with werewolves. It'd be interesting if we could pull it off, because that would be a hell of a movie. And there's cattle mutilations, so there's cows found mutilated in the film. I haven't done a lot of cut shots of that, but that's a given, an understood one, right? So you see the sign, right? G-L, as in grace, right? As in grace. So it's a big thumbs up. We're gonna wait for the green light. You see the cows over here. We're waiting for the green light. We're gonna wait. Whoops, it's green. So we got the green light. So we will be working with Gary Oldman. I was waiting for it to turn green. That's a yes. That's a sign that we will be doing a movie with Gary Oldman about a lycanthrope very soon. So the green light is in effect. We have the lycanthrope movie that we've been waiting on for a very long time. And this is going to be one of the greatest werewolf movies of all time. So the werewolf does go after the cows. As you can see, they are the victim of the werewolves. And the idea behind that is that Rainey goes out at night to take her walk to fight alcoholism. And when she goes off to the ranch, she finds a trail. And one night, the lycanthrope bites her very quickly. And that night was a full moon. She transforms into the werewolf and takes down some cattle and kills these two cows that are actually banging heads together like that, and chases them in the form of a werewolf. And every night that she can't find a human victim in Barksville, she goes for the cows instead. She just waits. Sometimes she stands there and lets the cow walk right up to her. And she runs along until she gets a hold of one of their necks. She chews into the neck and lets the blood come out of the cattle. And they find the cattle mutilated. And they don't know exactly what caused the mutilations. On Lippin Ranch, they find hundreds of cattle, many of Lippin's. When I mean Lippin, I mean Lippan. It's an Apache name. It's on an Apache scroll. Because Grace Lippin, Lippan, is Apache. He has a little Irish in him too. And his farm is under attack of mutilations from this lycanthrope who happens to be Rainy Love. The sins of the father are handed down to the son. Not to the sins of the son, but the sin of the father falls to the son. Grace Lippin's father was a World War II hero that killed many Japanese. He was known to have over 100 kill shots as a sniper in World War II, as 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 in World War II. The Great War, he fought and killed all these Japanese and brought back a few samurai swords. And when he came back, he taught his son some of the art of jiu-jitsu, which he learned as he was there as a sniper. And he fell in love with a Japanese lady who drowned herself to death in a bathtub. Grace came back to the United States and married a woman because his father's name was Grace Lippin. We're actually dealing with the Grace Lippin III. His father was also named Grace and fought in the Vietnam War with over 70 confirmed kills as a sniper. 70 confirmed kills as a Marine sniper in Vietnam War. Grace Lippin never went to war. Grace Lippin III never went to war. He doesn't ever talk about his family. And he doesn't go by Grace Lippin III. Gerald Oldman III also has a history of war. His grandfather and his father fought in World War I and World War II against the Nazis. Well, World War I was just the Germans, but World War II was the Nazis. Even though Hitler was in World War I and World War II, but in World War I, Hitler was in that war and was thinking about being a Nazi, and then he became a Nazi in World War II. But he fought against the Germans. As an infantryman, as an infantry. And his life was cut short when his father committed suicide by stabbing himself in the heart with a bayonet. That's what happened to Grace. That's what happened to Gerald Oldman III. His father died by suicide, the bayonet. And it affected Gerald Oldman III, caused him to seek alcoholism as a refuge to the suicide. Classic car alert. And you get the point. Their families are all war fighters, war heroes on both sides. Thai monkey tonight. That's health food. Enjoy health nuts. Thanks. Anyway, what I was saying was that one grandfather fought in World War II. The father fought in Vietnam. And on Gerald Oldman III, they fought in World War I and World War II in the Great War. So these families both involved in war. Gerald Oldman III's ancestry all involved in World War I and World War II. And Grace Lippen's family involved in the Great War in Vietnam. Even though they are different generations, they come as fighters against this disgusting werewolf beast. You know, when she turns into a werewolf, she's growling and just horrible. Snapping, you know. Really just out of control. And they learn these tactics, these strategies to destroy this beast, this lycanthrope, because it's in their blood to fight and kill what is evil and wrong. She abandons all humanity to transform into this beast that slobbers from the mouth and bites into what she sees as the enemy and what we see as mankind. You follow me? It's an act of evil, but yet they have to toughen themselves up and prepare. Now, John Blacksmith, his dad also fought in a war too, but John Blacksmith's dad fought in the Iraqi war in Desert Storm, and he has a different type of post-traumatic problem and abused John Blacksmith. And John Blacksmith learned all these crafty ways to invent things and became obsessed with hunting down the evil of the lycanthrope. So they all suffer abuse within the family. This guy behind me is a psycho. That's what's going on right here. He's flashed his light a couple of times, but he knows better to mess with the king. The King Cole. The planner of the militia of Oak Hill. Just past Oak Hill right there. There's a golf ball over this way. He does not know he's messing with the king. But anyway, regardless about the Lacanian king, was visited by Jupiter and cursed. That curse transforms good into evil. And it sunk its fangs into Rainy Love one night when she was out walking, taking her time to pass the urge to pick up a bottle of wine or beer or liquor and to drown her mind in the bliss of drunkenness and intoxication of alcoholism. And she finds her way along a long trail where the lycanthrope approaches her and bites her and runs off to make her the werewolf of this story. Now, Rainy Love's history, also her mother's husband, who she never met, was in Desert Storm and lost his life. She raised Rainy as a single mother and gave her guitar lessons at a young age, where she opened for bands like, I don't know, Genesis, stuff like that, bands of the 80s. But she never made fame. She even met Rick Springfield, but still never became famous. She even toured with popular bands in certain festivals like Pearl Jam, but her band never succeeded, and she had to quit and sell Bill Jack dog food and hang out with this UFC fighter. We're waiting for it to turn green. And Rainey, mom, was succumbed to addiction and alcoholism. This guy's a nut. Yeah, he's coming across here. Okay, and alcoholism. And eventually died. And Rainey had to, go on without her. She tried to make the band work. It just didn't work. And one night in Irving, Texas, she ran into this UFC fighter named Grace Lippin at an LA Burger and decided he was pretty cool and hung out with him. And the next thing you know, they bought a ranch way out in a place called Barksville. And that's where their life began, and that's where she got bit and became the lycanthrope. When I was about 16 years old, I snorted one line of cocaine in the bathroom here at the Subway. True story. It was the only time I ever snorted cocaine in my entire life. It was one line. Got it from this athlete guy in Keller. And then, that was it. Didn't do anything to me at all. It's probably fake. Oh my God, it's a Catholic store right there. But it was at this very Subway that has not moved. I used to work at that grocery store right over there in the parking lot. It's called Diamonds. I worked there for a summer, stocking groceries and helping people take their groceries to the car and things like that. It was right before 1990, or it was about 1990. Right around 1990, around that area. So I walked back here, 1990. This bathroom, right here. I laid one line down, and this was not here at that time. And I just basically, right there. It's the only time in my entire life. Probably 1990, I was in high school. In this very bathroom, right there. And that was the only time. So it was right here in this parking lot, right down this way. And it was called Diamonds. Eventually my hair turned jet black after I dyed it with a punk rock friend, Westbrook Johnson, in North Richland Hills. He said, hey, let's dye your hair jet black. And I was probably 16 at the time. I said, okay. And at Richland High School, Carly Nelson, who was a punk rocker, she called me Sid. As in Sid Vicious. True story. And she used to jump on me in the middle of the halls. She'd go, oh, Sid, Sid, Sid. And be like, shh. We'd go home and watch Sid and Nancy. We were obsessed with that film. It was unreal. And it was right before I left Keller. It was this place right here. It's Diamonds Supermarket. It's a grocery store. Now is a church called Venture Church. Probably about the same size as right now. Like same exact size. And one night before we left, we went to this party. I got crashed by the Crips, who were the same people that later killed Channing Freelove. Police were called and there were a big arrest made. It was a party way, way, way over that way. And someone left something over there. The night before we left, we were mad at the manager for getting on to us because I had walked up to him. He was counting money. And I mean, he used the GD, cussed me out. So I told my friends about it. They were working there. We went in the back, took about 20 cartons of yogurt and threw it the back wall. Then we hightailed it on foot to the party. And that night, they showed up with beer bottles, throwing them at people in the front yard. They smashed my friend Jason Simmons in the mouth. And the police had them all lined up at a gas station. Many of the gang members. Big gang. We jumped the back fence. We thought guns were going to be broken out and everything. Turned out that they were mostly arrested. And they had pulled up. I think there may have been shots fired.